Hey, everybody. How's it going? Sam Rodriguez here with another episode of Money and Stuff. With me is Conor Shepard. Conor, how's it going, man?
Going good, Sam. It's right in the middle of allergy season. It's in full swing. Well, allergy season for me. I don't know about the rest of the world, but yeah, just living life.
Awesome. Sounds like life's amazing for you right now. Yeah. Well, I'm going to quit asking you how things are going.
Yeah, I was wondering. I was like, when are we going to have an episode where we open with me asking Sam, how are you? How are you
How am I
today?
doing? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. You're not allowed to ask me personal questions.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah. So, yeah, until I know that your life is more exciting, I may stop asking.
Hey, man, I'll do what I can to work on that, but no promises.
So, welcome to episode 834. If you missed the previous 822 episodes, I'm sorry. So,
Missed out.
13. We are on lucky number 13. And today we're going to talk about something that I think is pretty timely with home prices where they are right now. I know especially younger generations, millennials, whatever comes after millennials, I don't know what it is. I don't know what Gen Z and what Gen Y is. So I'm afraid to say the other generations and say that it's unaffordable for them to buy a home. And people say like, yeah, of course it's unaffordable for a 13-year-old to buy a home. So I'm just going to say millennials and younger, um, you know, they're being priced out of the market right now. And really there's a question of, does it even make sense? Does it make sense to buy a home? And so today, for the first time ever, we have a guest.
Drum roll, please.
Yeah, that's right. We have Ashley with us, and Ashley is actually our CMO, our Chief Marketing Officer at Foundation Wealth Partners. But I asked Ashley to come on because she is probably, or not probably, she is the closest to this subject, right? Like she went through the home buying process a few years ago. I should say Ashley is also my daughter. We kind of forced her to buy a home. um, and so she went through this went from being a renter to a homeowner, and then, is now thinking about where she wants to actually live now that she's able to do her job from anywhere. And having to make that decision again of buying versus renting. So Ashley, welcome.
Hi, it's great. It's great to be here.
Yeah, that voice didn't sound like it.
Oh no. Okay, I'll try again. It's hi. It's great to be here.
Yeah,
There it is.
The good thing, like we said earlier, so Ashley was a little nervous coming on, and I said the great thing is you're the one who has all the editing power. You can just make yourself sound fantastic. So say whatever you want to say.
I'll just dub over all of this after the episode and say completely different things.
Yeah, just do a lot of research, really work on your copy in terms of some really good things to say, and just, shove it in there. All right. So I'm not, honestly, I'm not quite sure how to start this. Maybe let's start with what we see going on, right? Home prices have appreciated like crazy. I know just in our morning meetings, we've talked about why that might be. And sort of the problem that it's causing, which is, hey, it makes it tough for people to even buy a home.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely have some thoughts on that. I'll let you guys take the mic first if you guys want to have anything to say.
Oh, well, first, let me just say thank you for letting me have the mic, Sam. It's an honor.
Wow, that was more like a courtesy. I was hoping you actually wouldn't take
more of a what do you call it? Rhetorical question.
Yeah, I was just being nice.
No, I mean, I think anybody who's taken half a look at the housing market can see that things have really gone off the deep end, so to speak, in terms of just how expensive home prices are getting. And, every time it sounds like somebody is saying, oh, it has to plateau now, there's no way it's going to continue, it just. So
yeah, nothing has to plateau. Right? Things can do whatever they want, and as long as demand is high and inventory is low, they will continue to climb. Right.
Mhm.
It's just a matter of, will the conditions that have allowed it to continue to climb continue? How long will those conditions continue? Right. And I know in other episodes I've pointed out some of the things that have happened, which is, we've been in a time period where interest rates have been falling for about 30 years now. And what that's allowed is it's allowed for a bigger pool of people to afford a home. And anytime you have a bigger pool of people buying a limited amount of supply, prices are going to go up. Right. And right now we're still at pretty historic lows as far as interest rates go. And so that, combined with very low inventory, people not selling their homes, creates a supply and demand problem. Right. And then Ashley, I know you were pointing out something the other day. You're a millennial, right? Like I'm not.
Yes.
I don't have my generation years messed up. You're a millennial.
I am a millennial.
And as a millennial, you just hate baby boomers, correct? So
I definitely think that it's it's difficult for millennials because baby boomers are after the same thing that millennials are after whenever it comes to home buying. Millennials are after their first time home, small. My house is 1,100 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. It does not have stairs. Baby boomers, they're probably living in much larger houses. And now that they're empty nesters, are looking to downsize. And so they're also looking for a nice 1,100 square foot, 3 bedroom, 2 bathroom, no stairs situation. But they have money to be able to put a higher down payment down, or get that cash offer in because they currently own, where millennials, they're going in for that first time home purchase and just have whatever savings they have, or if they're using an FHA, what are those called, like whenever you get like down payment assistance.
Yeah, they're not coming with as much cash to the table, so it's the process of qualifying for the home and even getting the mortgage takes longer, right? So essentially what you're saying is baby boomers are going after the houses because that's what they desire to have, because they are now, it's just, they don't have kids in the house anymore. They want a smaller house, so there's not as much maintenance. And we all know, like, there are a lot of baby boomers, right? The baby boomer generation is enormous. But the houses that they desire are the houses that your generation would normally be getting into for the first time.
Right.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Well, why don't you just go buy the huge houses that the baby boomers are selling?
We can't afford it.
Oh, I see the problem.
You got to stop buying Starbucks. That I've been reading all about this. It's the Starbucks, and I mean it's all those frappuccinos adding up.
Yeah, it's that $7 coffee that I need at least 3 times a week to get through the burnout, the millennial burnout.
So now see, so this has all happened within the last couple of years, right? So you see how wise your parents were to tell you to buy a home 3 years ago. How this worked out.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely, and even to go back 3 years, of course, inventory, was there. We looked at a ton of houses where now if you're trying to buy a house, you have like 5 to choose from, and they will disappear within 24 hours of you going and looking at them. But we had lots of houses to choose from, and we also looked at apartments, and it was literally like, okay, here's your 1 bedroom, 700 square foot apartment, or here's your 3 bedroom house that has a living room and a kitchen and a laundry room. And the price was the same for rent or mortgage. And so it was definitely the better decision. And now, even if you look at it, I feel like renting is almost higher than what some people can get a mortgage for. But then it's like, there's no inventory to buy a house. you can't you can't qualify for the same things if you're a first-time home buyer that I was able to. And even if I were to sell my house and buy another house, there's no houses to buy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a tough time if you're a first time home buyer. And I would say that it's a tough time even if you are say you are a baby boomer that's looking to downsize. The price of the smaller homes has appreciated much faster than the price of the larger homes. So you may sell your bigger home and be buying a smaller home at a much higher price per square foot.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
but
the financial decision can be even for someone who's looking to downsize can be tough right now.
yeah, I mean, I definitely could see that, but I think just bringing it back to what Ashley was saying about, you have first time home buyers almost competing with baby boomers for these downsized homes. I mean, when you have one of those two players with decades of financial depth and credit and all that, it really is giving them a leg up in terms of when they see a downsized home that maybe is overpriced or appreciated in value. They're able to take that hit financially just because they have that depth versus millennials and younger just not having.
They have more choice. They can say, okay, I know I'm paying a little bit over, or they can be the reason that the home prices are overinflated because they're willing to pay over asking price, where someone younger may be stretching their budget just to hit the asking price.
Yeah. Well, so here's a question for you guys. Why do you think people are made to feel like they have to own a home versus renting? Because I think that at least from what I've seen, it seems like there is a pressure almost on younger people and in general just owning a home. You never want to be renting long term. Like if you have to rent, do it, as minimally as possible, but you always want to be trying as best as you can to get as, closer and closer to buying a home.
Yeah, like buying a home is considered like part of the American dream, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why is that?
Yeah. So I think that this is very interesting because you really do kind of have like a father-daughter perspective here of, I know whenever we were looking, my then boyfriend at the time, now husband, we were looking to buy a home, and it really was like an expectation of, okay, we've graduated college, I had a job, like a corporate job. He was working at Best Buy, and we were like, okay, let's, figure out how to buy a house, because that expectation was really there. Like we knew we were going to get married. And it's kind of like order of events. Like you get married, you buy a house, you have kids, you live the American dream. I am sure that I was told many a reason why it was very important to own a home. Like, well, if you rent, you're throwing your money away. I'll let you talk to that. To that.
So what, because I know what our thoughts were and why we were pushing you to buy a home, but beyond us, or even from us, like, because I would really be interested to hear if the messaging we were trying to get across was the actual messaging you were receiving. But when feeling like you should buy a home, like where do you feel that was coming from? And what do you feel that the reasoning was as to why you should buy a home?
I think that we thought like that's the next step, like after you graduate college and you like have a degree and you're about to get married, like you're supposed to own a house.
It's just what you do.
Yeah, it's just what you do. I don't think that we really thought about it from a financial perspective at that point in time. I think we were just kind of like, well, they're telling us that this is the right thing to do, so we'll look at some houses. I don't think that we were ever like, well, if we rent, we're not investing in anything, we're not throwing our, we didn't think about it as like not getting any return on that money that we're just throwing at renting.
So it wasn't really a financial decision as much as it was this is what we're supposed to do type of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like a progression in life, it's
Yeah,
just
and
the next step.
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel that way. Like I said, like achieving that American dream, but I don't know that people really know why that's part of the American dream, or if it even makes sense that it's still a part of the American dream, right? So at that time, Ash, I can tell you for myself, what I saw rent prices were very high. I saw that interest rates were very low. And just in doing the math, I could tell that you could probably own your home for less than you could rent, right? That was the deal. And I did know that even if it wasn't the home you were going to be in long term, you would be building equity. And even if you decided to do something differently, you would at least have created some net worth for yourself, right? And so it just made sense from just a math standpoint, like it was going to work out, right? And it's worked out better than I think any of us ever could have thought it would, right? I mean, just because in the last couple of years, home prices have appreciated so much, and you're in an area that is, you're in a part of town that you have easy access to quite a bit of things. So I think the area you're in, it ended up benefiting you quite a bit. But I'm sure you found that there's some downsides to owning a home, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. You can't call your landlord to come fix anything. That's definitely one thing that I don't think that we estimated how much we would spend on repairs, because this is an older home. I think it was built in 1982. So there's definitely repairs that needed to happen almost immediately upon us moving in. And I mean, that was completely unexpected. And then like you have to mow your lawn all the time, and you have to maintain it. There's something called like watering your foundation so you don't have foundation issues.
Well, that's I think that is very specific to the area of the country we live in, right? We have this shifting soil and we have slab foundations that we got to make sure don't get soaked with water, dry out, which pushes your foundation up and down, which ends up ruining your home, right?
So I've learned things.
I've never heard that before, so that is definitely good to know when I eventually get a home in Texas.
Oh yeah. There are so many things that we'll have we had like contractors come in so we could get a quote on like different things, and they're like, well, this is Texas, so XYZ, it's just going to be that way. Because the ground is it's clay under your foundation, so your house is just always going to have problems. You're always going to be repainting cracks on the wall forever. So yeah, there were definitely things that I just had no idea, like living in an apartment for as long as we did, and then owning a home and having to learn like how a home works and how plumbing works, so that you can make like your own plumbing adjustments and don't have to like call an emergency plumber, or like if your AC goes out, like knowing what to do. It was a lot of adulting very, very quick.
Well, even now, right? Like having been a homeowner for some time, there are times where I tell my wife, your mom, like I say, I'm tired of owning a home. Like I'm tired of having to make sure all of these things are done all of the time. I don't enjoy them. I don't enjoy yard work. I don't enjoy worrying about something that I see that is going to be a problem in the future and thinking about what am I going to do to take care of it. From a financial standpoint, and being a financial advisor doesn't make sense. Yeah, on paper, like it does make sense, but it's difficult because it's like you said, like I would kind of love to just walk in and be like, everything I see, I don't have to worry about because it's not my problem.
Yeah.
But I will say, like thinking about the home being part of the American dream, one of the reasons I think home ownership, or one of the ways I think home ownership has helped Americans over the last several decades, is with increasing net worth and actually helping people sort of raise their socioeconomic status.
Yeah.
Because right now, the home equity makes up on average 70% of the average American's net worth, right? So that's where the majority of Americans actually build net worth. And it's sort of like a forced savings, right? Because if you're going to save into your 401k, if you're going to save into any kind of investment account or bank account or whatever, it's a decision you have to make. And you got to also make the decision not to tap into it and spend it down. But when it's the place you live, and if you don't pay it, they're going to take it away from you. You continue to pay it. And because you continue to pay it, the amount you owe goes down, which increases your net worth. And, you know, in most instances, it's going to go up in value. And so that equity increases even further. So I do think that it is a good way for most people to create net worth that they otherwise wouldn't have, right? Because they're forced to. And then the great thing too, you know, it's also something that it's a way to pass on the wealth or net worth that you've built. Because if you live in that house until the day you die, it's going to be passed on to your heirs, to your kids, right?
Yeah.
So you actually pass on a pretty sizable asset that they can then decide what to do. And it helps them further their socioeconomic status, right? You know, maybe it's the money that allows them to send their kids to school, or that was the extra money that allowed them to retire even better, or pay their own house off and, you know, create even more net worth for the next generation. So I think it is a fantastic wealth building tool. But I do know that there's an argument out there, right? That people say, well, what if what if instead of saving up for a down payment and putting that in a house, what if I just took the money that I was going to pay a down payment on and invested it, right? And that's true, right? You could do the same thing. You could save up money, invest it, and create a pretty sizable net worth that way, right? But then that discipline issue comes into play, right? Are you going to continue your savings every month, right? Or will you leave that money invested, or will you even save up the amount to invest? So I worked it out. I thought, okay, if you have a $250,000 home that you want to buy and you want to put 20% down, which is $50,000, what works out better, right? The home appreciating in value, or the $50,000 appreciating in value? And the thing I think people need to think about when owning a home from a financial perspective is, you know, I've read articles that say, like, yeah, your money invested actually grows at a faster rate than the pace of the average home increasing. And that's true, right? True by quite a bit. However, you got to think about leverage, right? So you can leverage the small amount of money you have to buy a house, a much bigger and more valuable asset, that even though it's not growing at as fast of a percentage pace, because it's a much larger asset, the dollar value is increasing pretty fast, right?
Yeah.
So like since 2000, the average home has appreciated by 3.6684%, right? So you have a $250,000 home over a 30-year mortgage, that home is going to increase to almost $737,000 in terms of value, right? Like, that's a pretty sizable jump. If you had $50,000, which would have been a 20% down payment for that home, it would have to get an average rate of return of 9.38% for you to have the same net worth at the end of it, right? Is it possible that could happen? Yeah. But it takes a lot of discipline, right? Especially when markets may go down and you see your net worth go negative, you have to train yourself. Okay, I'm not going to sell out and be scared to reinvest, right? Because we see that happen quite a bit. That would mean you stayed in and you made that 9.38% at a steady rate, right?
Mhm.
So, it's always when people say, whether it's like pay my debt down, buy a house or whatever, do whatever with my money, is that better to do than something else? And it just depends on what you're going to do with that money, right? If you're going to invest it, it's possible. It's possible it could be better to invest that money instead. But you also got to think about what risk you're willing to take to make the money you're going to earn or you need to earn in order for it to make out to be a better decision.
And I would argue too, like you said about owning a home being like a forced savings. If you were renting and you would also put, $50,000, invested $50,000, but you are also renting and paying rent, would you also be able to continue to invest more money, or would you only be able to pay your rent and your bills and, your groceries, and you wouldn't really be able to continue to put money in, where if you own a home, it's like a forced savings. You're constantly putting that money in.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might not have that money to do, especially, one of the things about renting that I'm always a little wary of is what you pay on a month-to-month basis to have a place to live is out of your control, right? You get a 30-year mortgage, with the exception of what you pay for taxes on it, what your mortgage is going to be for the next 30 years, right? But with rent, you have no idea.
Yeah.
Right. If the area you live in becomes popular, it could increase dramatically. Right. And the great thing about a mortgage is, let's say you're paying $1,500 a month right now. $1,500 a month, 15 years from now is probably going to feel much different than $1,500 a month feels right now. It's definitely going to feel more different 30 years from now when you're about to pay your mortgage off. And also 30 years from now, whenever you don't have a mortgage payment anymore and the only thing you're paying are your property taxes, it definitely feels a lot different than knowing that you're still paying rent.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting to view, touching on the home buying as a forced savings account. It's almost a security deposit on your expected increase in future net worth. It is you basically saying, I'm going to put this money down here, knowing it's not going to be rapidly growing in the short term necessarily, but it is going to move me up that socioeconomic ladder as home prices increase and as home values increase. So
yeah.
There's one other thing that really quick that I want to touch on with, as far as millennials go and home ownership and everything that we just talked about, is what about living your best life? If you could rent by the beach, even if you're paying.
Yeah. So I was about to actually touch on that, right? So this is all predicated on where you want to live, right? So let's say you wanted to live across the street from Central Park. You're right. Owning is going to be extremely difficult and going to be extremely expensive. Hopefully you just love taking walks in the park in your free time. And that's the only thing you like doing, because you're not going to be able to afford doing anything else. That's a case where renting may be your only option. Right. And that's one thing too, is like to afford a home, a lot of people have to go further and further out from the city center.
Yeah.
And if that's the lifestyle you desire, fantastic. But if you desire to be in sort of a lively area where, like, I really like walkable cities. Right. And I know you're both saying you live in the middle of the suburbs. I know. But I enjoy walkable cities. I enjoy being able to walk out of a door and go around the corner to get coffee, or go around the corner to get the groceries I need for the day, or whatever it is, right? I like that. I'm a very introverted person, and you would think introverted people just want to be at home. I don't want to be at home. I do want to be involved in things, but I'm not the person who's going to make those things happen. Right. I like being in places where things are already happening and all you got to do is step outside to be a part of it.
Yeah,
Right.
I love that.
Yeah. So in those instances, maybe it makes sense. Like, okay, the only way to live the life I really want to live is going to be to rent. Maybe it just doesn't make sense to own a home. So yeah, part of it is, not everything is dollars and cents, right?
Yeah.
Like, why do we save money? Why do we want to increase net worth? It's because we want to be able to live the life we want to live. Right. So why are we making ourselves miserable in order to, I'm not saying everybody who lives in the suburbs is making themselves miserable. I'm sorry if that's what you think I'm saying.
Sounds like you're kind of projecting there.
Yeah,
Sam.
I'm also not saying that I'm miserable. I'm just saying what I would prefer, but what we do for people is all about helping them get to where they really want to be and achieve what's really important to them, right? It's never, hey, what do you want your net worth to be? That's not what we're working towards. What we're working towards is, what do you want for yourself?
What's going to make you happy?
What's going to make you happy? And then we'll work your net worth around that. We'll work what it's going to take to achieve that. But just net worth alone is, what's the reasoning for it?
Yeah. Well, and I know in one of our previous episodes, go ahead and check back and listen to that if you haven't yet. But we talked about, the shifting of mindsets between baby boomers and the younger generations. They value experiences and memories now, as opposed to, I think, older generations where they viewed their retirement and the end of working as the point of, this is when we're going to have those experiences. So I think that also might play into the renting. If you want to be living a certain lifestyle differently each year, renting can make more sense in those cases.
Yeah, you may be right. So I know we've talked about that quite a bit, about the different mindsets of different generations. And one of the things about helping people across the spectrum of so many generations is I get to really talk with people about, how they feel and how they think about things. And I think it all has to do with, what was really going on. You think about the baby boomers, their parents were children of the Great Depression. Right. So their parents carried with them this extreme frugality. And that wasn't isolated, right? That was countrywide. Like, everybody felt this. And so they lived in this constant, everything's gonna fall apart, right? And their kids grew up in that household where that was the feeling, right? And then their parents, their fathers went off to war, came back, had babies, and then we had the baby boomer generation that grew up with those parents. Instead of just trying to be okay and get by and prepare for worst case scenario, they had the opportunity to really move up that socioeconomic status, right? We had this industrial boom, and they had the opportunity to own a home, own a car, right? And so the work ethic was all about, actually really having something for yourself.
Yeah.
But they basically worked their whole lives to have it. Right. And then you go next generation, which is Generation X, which I'm at the tail end of, right? Well, we didn't grow up the same way, right? Our parents were those parents that were achieving a certain milestones at certain ages. And I know for me, like, I'm on the tail end of Generation X, and a couple of years later and I'd be a millennial. So, I especially see what's going on with the millennials as well, is that American dream we've been able to achieve quicker. We didn't have to wait to retirement to be making an income that afforded us a certain lifestyle. And, you know, I think so many people work and work and work and think that money and things are going to solve their kind of emotional issues that they're trying to fix, right? Just everybody's just trying to be happy. And you get to a certain point in life where you're making a certain income, more money than you ever thought you'd make. And you look around and you go, you know what? I'm not as happy. I have all these things, but I'm not as happy as I thought I would be.
Mm-hmm.
So you start to wonder, okay, what are the experience? What is it that was going to make me happy? Oh, you know what? I want to have these experiences. I want to do these things.
Mm-hmm.
And so you think about millennials being the children of Generation X. They saw that, or they're seeing that. And so there's a realization before they even try to achieve things to say, oh, I want to be happy, right? Like I've seen, like we grew up in a pretty good spot, right? Like we've seen what our parents have done and we see what our parents are doing now. I want what my parents have now, right? Which was an issue. It's always an issue. You know, every generation wants what the previous generation already has.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So when baby boomers owned homes, Generation X was like, well, it's unfair that all these baby boomers already own a home. And baby boomers were like, yeah, we're 30 years older than you, goofball. Right. And then you get millennials that were like, wow, it's unfair that these Generation X are in these high paying positions. It's like, dude, we got 20 years in already. Like we've been putting it in. Right. But you always want what the previous generation already has. But I think the younger millennials and the generations after millennials are seeing, oh, like Generation X is already seeking happiness over money. If they've had that realization that money isn't what really makes them happy.
Yeah.
It may be what money affords you, right? Which is time and the ability to do things. But if you let go of some of the material possessions, right? Like, oh, I don't have to have a home theater room or the biggest television or the nicest car. I can have a place that's, you know, suits my needs and I can go do a lot of other things that I actually enjoy doing.
Yeah. Valuing activity over actual tangible items.
Yeah. I don't even know if it's activity as much as just finding like, what is it that you really love? Right? Is it spending time with your family? Is it you have some sort of hobby that you just, you know, it brings you joy to do? Is it traveling? Is it seeing the world? I mean, heck, if you live in the United States, there's so many like state parks and so many different parts of the United States are so different than others. Like you could travel, you could go see 2 state parks a year for like your entire life and still not see or national parks, still not see all the parks that there are to see.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like there's a ton, even though the world has gotten smaller because of, you know, the information age and our connectivity. It's still a huge place that the majority of it we'll never see.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and it's hard to think about working your entire life to just one day be able to, you know, sit on the porch.
Yeah.
If that's what you want, I'm not knocking it in any way. If that's what you want, fantastic. You know, but you know, one other thing is owning a home really does tie you down to where you are.
Mm-hmm.
Right. If you're renting, there's some flexibility in there. Right. Hey, when our lease is up, what do you think about living, you know, somewhere else, you know, wherever else? Let's go check it out. Let's see what it's about.
Yeah.
Now that's probably not a good idea to have, you know, not a good idea when you have kids. You probably want a stable place, good schools. You don't want to move them around every year just because you want to see things. I mean.
Yeah. And I think that that's one thing too about millennials and Gen Z is I think that the priorities are different whenever it surrounds families too. Like Gen X and baby boomers, you know, they had kids relatively young, like order of operations. Or even Gen X, like, I mean, they had more children in their like early 20s versus like, you know, my generation is like, no, we're good. And then Gen Z, I mean, it's almost like some of them want to buy a house for their dog instead of buying a house for their kid. So I think that the priorities of the generations are different too, especially whenever it comes to families. Like people are wanting to have more experiences before they settle down, I guess.
I think too, maybe that comes from where our satisfaction came from at different periods of time, right? So you think about the baby boomer generation or their parents. There was probably a lot of time spent with family and extended family. And a lot of your joy probably came from hanging out with those people, right? And as we became more mobile and started separating ourselves based on what neighborhood we lived in or whatever it was, or, going across the country to take a job to better ourselves financially, maybe we started seeking that, seeking to fill whatever that hole is in different things because we weren't getting it filled by our families. Maybe that's why there's just less importance on family, because you didn't really grow up with family the same way previous generations grew up with family, just slowly moving away from it. I feel like we've gotten really, really off topic. I think that, so the big question was like, does it make sense to own a home? Is it, is the pressure to buy a home really pressuring you to do the right thing? And like most things, the answer is it depends, right? Can it be a fantastic wealth building tool? Yes, especially when you see that it is one of the only ways that many Americans ever build any wealth for themselves. But again, it always comes down to what's most important to you. If it's only about building wealth, well, there's a lot of things that you could do, right? There's a lot of ways to build wealth, but not all of those things are what's most important, right? I mean, I know our job is to increase people's wealth, but I do feel like everyone at our firm believes that we're doing it with purpose. And the purpose isn't only wealth building. The purpose is using your money as a tool to achieve what you really want, which is to be happy.
Yeah.
Right. And if you're building fantastic wealth, but hating your life every day because of where you live, is it really worth it?
Yeah.
Right. And you can, right? You can build wealth. Like the example I gave of taking that down payment and putting it to work. You can still build wealth. There's no guarantee that it's going to work out better or worse, but you can still build wealth in other ways. I feel like maybe we've exhausted the topic. What do you guys think? You guys have any other points? You know that if you just say like a couple of sentences, I could talk for 20 minutes on it.
I got nothing.
Either of you have anything? Let's wrap it up.
I think we've hit on all the major points.
Yeah, the long and short of it is, I think the American dream is still alive, of owning a home. It's just whether or not that should be part of your American dream.
Yeah.
Right. Is it harder? Yeah. Right. Like, is it harder to own a home? Yes. Right. There are more and more people, and land has not increased. So the competition for buying homes, right? Even though there's more homes, those homes exist in places further and further away from city centers. So it depends on where you want to be, right? Is it affordable? Sure. It just may not be affordable in the place that you want to be. So decide on whether or not owning a home is part of your own American dream. If it is, and you're okay being in the place where you can afford to buy a home, fantastic. But reassess or assess, if you haven't ever assessed, just assess, what's really important to you and the things that you really want to do. And then also think about if those things are still going to be important to you 5 years from now, right? Or how long it is that you'll really enjoy doing the things that you want to do, right? And then make your decisions based on that. Episode 13 in the books.
It's a wrap.
Close that chapter. I don't know if we answered anything. I tried to. Hopefully that was at least entertaining.
Yeah. If anything, it was an entertaining 40-something minutes of conversation.
Yeah. All right, guys. We appreciate you listening. Ashley, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate and enjoyed hearing your perspective as a fairly recent homeowner, right? to the rest of you, we appreciate you listening. We will, I guess I was gonna say we'll see you again soon, but we never really see you. You just listen to us. All right. We'll talk to you guys.
Securities offered through LPL Financial member FINRA/SIPC. Investment advice offered through Foundation Wealth Partners, a DBA of Advisor Resource Council, a registered investment advisor. Foundation Wealth Partners and Advisor Resource Council are separate entities from LPL Financial. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision.